Ladies and gentlemen, Violent Games here. Today I'm going to be covering D.Va. I really like D.Va. She's definitely my favorite tank in the game, and I hope I can really highlight why that is when I get into it. Do I think she's the most useful tank, to be honest? Not completely, but in the right hands, I definitely feel like she can do some damage and actually fulfill a lot of unexpected roles that you guys might not actually expect. So without further ado, I like to start my guides off with damage, so we're going to cover the damage of her primary weapons inside the mech anyhow, the fusion cannons. The fusion cannons are rapid-fire shotguns. They do 0.5 to 3 damage based on the fall-off ranges of 11 to 30 meters. Basically, you kind of want to stay within 10 to 11, always, because you want to, not do minimum damage, because the minimum damage is pathetic on these weapons. You have 8 pellets per shot, and your rate of fire is 7 rounds per second. So let me translate to you what all these damages mean in raw numbers. Per trigger pull on each body shot, your maximum body shot damage if you land all 8 pellets is going to be 24. The max headshot damage is going to be, if you land all pellets again, 48. So as you can see, the bots do kind of demonstrate that when their health bars were up. I wish they would stay up, but hey, I didn't make the game. So let's talk about what this means damage per second wise. I think damage per second is an important stat. It means if you're getting all of your body shots landing in a second, that's 168 damage. That's not too bad, depending on the nature of these weapons, the fact that you really don't have to reload them, but we'll get to that in a sec. And the maximum headshot damage per second that you could get if you land all of your pellets in that second is 336. That's why some people will say that, oh, I either melt with D.Va or I do like no damage. It's because of how inconsistent these damages feel. So why does the damage often feel inconsistent with D.Va? Well, first off, when you're at your 10 to 11 meter like ideal range, whatever, you're going to be missing a lot of your pellets a lot of the time because a lot of the character models, like I said in the Reaper video, are very thin, so you're not going to feel that damage at its maximum range, actually. So again, you could move in closer to guarantee that you do more damage, but even then, the character models are still thin, and they can easily break spacing with you. Now, why can they easily break spacing with you? Well, let's just go over the rest of the stats for a second. You have unlimited ammo, you have a headshot multiplier, which I did actually cover, and your movement speed is actually decreased to 1.33 meters per second. Basically, the reason that Blizzard did this is because they realized that with these damage profiles, players who were really accurate would actually melt people with D.Va if she had default movement speed. But when you're shooting, you move at a much more slow pace. This means that D.Va has the worst spacing control in the game because she moves incredibly slow when she's firing her weapons. If a character knows they're being shot in the back by D.Va, it's usually easy to tell when it's D.Va because it's a shotgun spread going around your face, and the rate of fire and just hearing D.Va in general, you're going to know when she's behind you shooting. If you just leave or backpedal and start shooting, you're going to break spacing with D.Va, and her damage is going to decrease really, really fast. Especially with Soldier 76, if he just sprints away, or Reaper who just teleports away, you're not going to be getting off your maximum damage that often because of all of these factors. The factors that you can miss, the factor that the character models are skinnier than these bots, and the fact that it is so easy to break spacing with D.Va. So that's why the damage feels low and inconsistent with D.Va as often. So how do I recommend using the fusion cannons? Let's just go into the conclusion real quick. You definitely want to go for headshots, and you want to make sure you're close enough to each target to do your maximum DPS. Also note that with larger characters, you don't have to be as close. You can stick to your 10 meters, but you try to get this in your brain, is that this is as far as you should really be whenever you're shooting with D.Va, because your fall-off damage is kind of pathetic. I mean, it's a shotgun. I mean, what would you expect, really? The 5-meter thing that I taught with Reaper also kind of applies here. You can basically land all of your spread consistently once you're within 5 meters, I'd say. So I feel like she's a bit more optimal when it comes to killing 200 health targets at those meters. But there's another damage profile that we have to cover as far as D.Va. And the reason is because once she leaves her mech, she actually has a different type of weapon in her hands, and that is called the light gun, or D.Va's light gun, whatever you want to call it. It is a linear projectile, so as you can see, they do have travel time. I'm just going to scroll down real quick to the stats here so I make sure I get everything right. So again, we have a linear projectile, a damage of 14, a projectile speed of 40 meters per second, a rate of fire of 6.66 rounds per second, an ammunition reserve of 20, and a reload time of 1.5 seconds. I don't believe there's a cancel, but I mean, yeah, there really isn't. It's not worth it. The reload's fine. Don't cancel. So let's go over what this means damage-wise for the pistol. You do a base damage per shot of 14, like I said earlier. That translates to 28 on the headshot, so you're doing 28 per trigger pull right there. Your DPS on just body shots is 84 per second, and your DPS on head is 168. Again, a lot of people will underestimate how damaging these pistols can be, and they will often be killed by them. And the reason and here's something that I get a lot, which is actually kind of funny. People will tell me that D.Va's pistol has better damage profiles than the shotguns. As we just covered, that's actually not the case. But the reason that people say this is because the pistol is much more consistent, kind of lands more often. You can be at any range. I don't believe there's any drop-off whatsoever. So at any range, you can kind of pelt out this damage, and it's consistent at all ranges. And you have more control over spacing, make it easier to hit the target. So I just wanted to clear that up for people who think that the pistol does more damage than the shotguns. So just to reiterate, your base damage is 14, headshot damage 28, damage per second on the body shot is 84 damage per second, and the damage on the head is 168 if you're landing all of your shots. Pretty cool, but the damage, again, is not as high as people make it out to be. Just keep that in mind, that is a complete mental, like, barrier thing. So let's get back into our mech and start covering her kit, because her kit is actually amazing. Like, I just want to make sure that you guys know this. Her kit is the whole reason that I kind of love her, and we'll definitely get into that in the strategy segment, Mind my words. They're weird. So, let's go over the boosters. The boosters have a 25 plus knockback. So the damage can do 25 depending on how many times you hit them or whatever. The movement speed during the boost is 12.5 meters per second, so you do move faster while you are flying. The cooldown is 5 seconds. The duration is about 2 seconds. And the maximum range is 25 meters. You can travel in a 25 meter spacing during this time. And there is no headshot multiplier, so that you can't get a headshot by ramming someone with your mech. I think that's fair and balanced. But the damage you get when you're ramming someone is very, very low, so I wouldn't recommend it to do it too often offensively, though I do use it in the video to kind of just get in someone's face and tank for them. So how are you going to use the boosters? Basically, use the boosters to just be kind of get to your team, go to health kits, so you can use it, for one, as a way to evade. So like if you're getting low on health, you can fly to a health kit or even fly back into base early on during the matches. Like say you're close enough to base, you just fly back to base, get all your health back, and just continue to tank. You can use it to interrupt an enemy's line of fire by flying into them and then just kind of absorbing whatever damage they are with your other ability, which we will cover. Or you can even use it to push people off of ledges in some points of the map. So you can actually use this to fly and just kind of knock them back and push them off ledges. That is something that you can actually do, so I definitely would keep that in mind. I don't really represent it in my gameplay, but it is definitely something you can accomplish. Just to reiterate those points, fly around, be a nuisance, fly to vantage points, distract the enemy with this ability as well, because there's multiple ways that D.Va can tank. So using it to get to vantage points, collecting health kits as a way to evade, fall back into your healer, you know, all these things are pretty viable for D.Va when it comes to the boosters. Using them to push them off ledges, and using them to keep yourself from falling off ledges works as well. The boosters have a lot of ways to use them, and it's one of the reasons her kit is just kind of amazing. So let's go over the bread and butter skill of D.Va, and what makes her a really effective tank in my opinion, and a very unique tank, is Defense Matrix. Defense Matrix spits out at a meter of 15 meters, so just keep in mind that around, I'd say like right here, I think is the, actually, it would be like that far, wouldn't it? Like, it's actually pretty far. I didn't realize that defense matrix went that far, but you will see me use it at longer ranges. So during the video, I believe Mei throws an ult, and I counter. I absorb the damage that a Roadhog's trying to do to my frozen teammate. I don't remember who it was, but I do actually use the range of defense matrix to its fullest potential. But just keep in mind that it's 15 meters. The duration is 4 seconds when it is fully charged, so that's just kind of like a second reference. It'll last about 4 seconds throughout its entire duration. And the cooldown is 1 second between hits, but it has a cooldown meter to the right, as you can see. And it takes about 10 seconds, I'd say, to recharge. Hold on, let me check the... Yeah, it's 10 seconds. Okay. So that about covers defense matrix. You basically use this to sponge up damage and prevent the enemy team from ulting. By far, that is the most useful way to use defense matrix, is when you see a big team fight, just run there and start absorbing the enemy's team's damage. You can even use this to kind of put certain fights that would have gone wrong in like another situation into your teammate's favor. Like, say your teammate's Reaper, he just closed the gap on Soldier 76. Good for him. But he's dealing with Soldier 76's damage, and Zenyatta throws a debuff on him. That means Soldier 76, if he does anything like launch a Helix rocket or just get a few shots in, Reaper's going down. You could fly up to Reaper and just start putting this right on him. This will prevent all the damage that Soldier could do to Reaper. Like, it'll just completely negate that. You'll just completely drink up all that damage, and Reaper will secure the kill because he's going to take no damage from your defense matrix because your defense matrix is there, is what I'm trying to say. So that's a very easy way to use it. And like I said, you can also use it in team fights to prevent all the enemy team's damage from kind of working during the 4 second period, which could be, and like I said, guys, 1 second is a long time in Overwatch. 4 seconds is pretty goddamn long in Overwatch, especially in a big like group on group skirmish. So a lot of cool things coming from defense matrix, and you can also shut down ults with it as well, or at least the majority of the ult. So, like, for example, Reaper Death Blossoms, you just start absorbing damage and all of your teammates leave the scenario. You just prevented the team from getting wiped. Oh, Pharah's using Justice, just look right up at her and just put this, and if all the rockets that enter that defense matrix radius will actually be absorbed. Now, there isn't a number chart that I can look at as far as, like, the actual, like, spacing of defense matrix. Actually, it looks like there is. It goes to 10 meters. If you can actually see on the screen when I pull it up, it says that the max meters, if you look like right in the center, is actually 10, I believe. So maybe that's actually a reflection of it, but I'm honestly not sure. That might just be spacing of like the thing in general, like it's saying that this barrier does this much at this meter, or it'll capture this at this meter. I don't know what that means. You guys let me know in the comments if you think you figured it out. What I think it means is, let's just look at it again. That the damage that's being absorbed per meter are in those little like triangles. So like at 10 meters, this is being absorbed. At closer, this is being absorbed or something. I don't really know. I'm just starting to confuse myself, so I'm going to stop talking about it now. But do let me know if you figure that out. That I'm definitely interested in hearing how like wide this spread is for defense matrix. So let's move on to her ultimate, Self-destruct. Now, Self-destruct has received a buff. It's definitely a lot better than it used to be, but let me just go over what it is. It's a projectile, which I did not know. The damage that it puts out is a 1,000 damage over a 20-meter radius. This is pretty goddamn impressive. It takes 3 seconds to deploy. Has no headshot multiplier, obviously. I'm not even going to put that in the stat chart that I'm going to post. The charge required is 1,100 points, so pretty lenient on the charge of this ability as well. Now, how do you want to use this? You either want to use it to change the enemy's priorities of what they're doing, so you just fly into a group of them and then drop it, then pursue the stragglers or whatever. You know, just kind of get some shots off on them. And as you can see, the radius just completely bodied every single training bot within the vicinity because it's pretty fucking high. Now, granted, any object can prevent all of the damage from this ability, so your enemies will often evade it within the time period of this ability. So how do you prevent this type of thing from happening? Well, the way you prevent this type of thing from happening is you want to combo your ultimate into your booster. So you're going to booster, then use your ultimate, and your mech is actually going to take the momentum from that boost and continue moving. So let's like just go over the boosters meters for a second. You move 25 meters ahead, so you're actually going to have to practice this part of D.Va more so than anything else, because I actually don't do this technique in my gameplay. I mostly just skirmish around. I never really figured out how to do that properly, and I wish I had for the guide's sake, but you all have probably seen it in live matches. So let's just cover what this might look like. You're trying to get your defense matrix into the thing. You know how long it takes. You've used your thruster. You've pushed it off, and then it goes about that far. Again, I still fucked it up. I wish I was better at this, guys. So here, let's do it just one more time, just for like reference's sake. So I kind of want to show you in the video just to like give you a point of view of how this would look like. So I'm just going to charge up my ultimate real quick. But this technique can be very nasty, and if the enemy isn't prepared to deal with the defense matrix, they're going to die from it. That 1,000 damage goes a long way and kills pretty much everyone in the entire like hero class. So let's just do it real quick for fun's sake. You do this, you launch it, it goes to the 25 meters and stops. It's just basically a few seconds of wind up before your ultimate goes off. So do keep that in mind. You should use this as a projectile if you're using it in an offensive manner. But if you are just using it to get the enemy away from things, it can still be very viable. And I at least do one play of the game with the explosion, or what is it called? Self-destruct. All right. So now that we've covered every single piece of D.Va, from her light gun to her boosters to her tankiness, if you will. Actually, I should talk about her health bar just really quick. Health bar's 500. A giant chunk is definitely armor. Pretty damn good because armor takes reduced damage. I mean, it's a tank health bar. What do you want me to say? I feel like we all understand that by now. So let's go into real quick how you should play D.Va. Well, when you play D.Va, I really think it's important to know that D.Va plays multiple roles in combat, and being able to switch between those roles on the fly can change the outcome of a game. Now, what do I mean by this? D.Va can tank, she can be a damage sponge, and she can be a backline harasser as well as a guerrilla fighter for diversion. So you can be playing D.Va just with inside your teammates, just kind of pushing forward, blocking off damage whenever you see a bunch of damage come that you don't necessarily want. Like say you see like Hanzo charging up a scatter arrow or something, you want to block that off, or like Soldier just turn on his visor, you want to block that off, just kind of sponge. You can just kind of push forward with your team similar to Reinhardt and just kind of do chip damage, you know, whenever. Or you could be a diversion. You could fly up here and then start spitting down bullets and just like kind of like divert their attention. This works very well against Reinhardt team compositions where you'll just fly up to a vantage point, shoot at the back of the Reinhardt so he can't use his shield to block your team's damage. So, because he has to think about you, he can't just let himself die to you, so he has to turn around, and then it kind of splits apart the enemy team. You can use D.Va as a flanker, so you can fly up and behind an enemy or an enemy teammate and start putting damage into their back, and in some circumstances you can kind of kill them this way because your teammates will actually do that pinching maneuver, which I kind of talked about with Reaper, when you get the flank on them and then you just start putting, you know, pellets into their back. If they move forward, they're dead, and if they move backwards, they're just going to break your spacing even more to where you can just kind of finish them off. So you have to be able to track your targets as well while you're using these shotguns. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. So let me just go over this again. You can pretty much play multiple roles, and you definitely need to think about this when you're playing D.Va, guys. It's very, very important that you understand that she is not just one type of tank. She has multiple roles that she can actually play in combat. She can be a disruptor, she can be a flanker, as well as a guerrilla fighter. Alright guys, that wraps it up for my coverage of D.Va in the lab. I'm going to be moving on to the gameplay segment where I do a full review of the character. Hope to see you then. Peace out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the gameplay segment of the show where I cover your counters, your ideal matchups, as well as go over a general review of the character, and then talk about what team compositions best suits said character. But before we get into that real quick, I just forgot to cover in the information segment how you should behave when you are outside of your mech. Basically, you should backpedal as much as possible, get the fuck out of there, and just get off pop shots so you can get right back into your mech. You do not want to stay outside of your mech intentionally. I think that's a very silly and stupid thing to do. What you should be doing as D.Va is being inside your mech as much as possible and tanking for your teammates. That is the role I feel like you should be playing. Like I said, you also want to play, you know, flanker roles and all that stuff. But I definitely wanted to throw that little tidbit in there before I get started. So let's talk... hold on. Need to clear my throat real quick. Let's talk about your counters. Who beats the shit out of D.Va? By and large, Bastion, Reaper, and Reinhardt. Bastion because, yeah, you can use Defense Matrix to kind of protect yourself from him for 4 seconds, but once that's down, he's just going to chew right through your health, and because you're a big fat target, he's going to put out a much higher DPS than you at all ranges, really, and you're going to fill up his bloom a lot easier because your mech's very chunky. So watch out for Bastion. He's a big counter to you. Hopefully you have like some snipers to deal with him or whatever, but just keep in mind that he really counters you. Next up, Reaper, because you and Reaper have the exact same spacing. Reaper, if he gets up close to you, can just strip your health right down. He absolutely will fuck you up. You should probably stay away from Reaper at all times, simply because his damage is much, much higher than yours, and he gives little shits that you have Defense Matrix. He will, like, on a 1v1 situation with Reaper, you are going to lose. And your last counter, Reinhardt, is there because he doesn't care about your Defense Matrix. His hammer is going to go right through it, and if he pins you into a corner, he's just going to knock your health right out. Basically, when it comes to dealing with Reinhardt, you should fly away as soon as possible, and I guess the same for Reaper, or if you start getting hit by Bastion. You should definitely want to boost out of there, because these guys are the guys that are going to fuck you up. Moving on to your ideal matchups, who I think that D.Va can actually pretty much solo kill at this point, is basically everyone who backline harassers can fuck with. This being Torbjorn, Hanzo, Widowmaker, and Ana Amari. And why do I say these characters? Well, Torbjorn, his turret, because of the nerf that he received on console, he's not going to do that much damage to you when you approach his turret and just knock it out. You can boost up to wherever the turret is, it doesn't matter where it is. You can use Defense Matrix on the approach to reduce any incoming damage and just kind of take out the turret yourself. And Torbjorn, his shotgun damage is kind of beefy, but at the same time, he's a very easy target for you to hit at all your meters because he's very round. Moving on to why Hanzo, I think, gets beat up. Again, because you can fly right up to him with Defense Matrix up. He can't do anything to you, and then you can just start whipping out damage. And if he's not super on fleek with his accuracy, you're just going to have an easy time killing him with headshots. Same story basically applies to Widowmaker. Make sure you definitely put up Defense Matrix when you're flying towards Widowmaker, because if she hits you with 2 fully charged headshots, your health is gone. Like, she can technically get around it on that basis, but again, you can just fly up to her position and harass her and kill her a lot of the times. So just keep those characters in mind. And same story again with Ana Amari, but beware of that sleep dart, guys. That sleep dart hits you very easily when you're D.Va. You can bait it out and use Defense Matrix to absorb it, to kind of keep that out of her kit. But do be prepared for it. And if you do catch her while she is scoped in, she is a very easy kill, guys, as I think I actually demonstrated in the gameplay just a few seconds ago, or a minute or two ago. So those are your ideal matchups. Let's go into team compositions real quick, and this is very basic information at this point, but when you're a tank character, Ana and Mercy are the best characters to have on your team. Any single target healer is going to be a massive benefit towards having a tank hero. It's simply because it makes your, like, a part of, like, my gameplay was going back for health kits. If I have had single target healers during that amount of time, or, I mean, Zenyatta could technically be a single target healer, but I'm basically just talking about Ana and Mercy when I say single target healer. because I think that suits them a lot more. When you have a single target healer on your team, you no longer have to really focus on health kits, and your teammates can benefit from the health kits that are on the field, because you could just fall back into your healer, let them heal you so that their ultimate charges rapidly. Like if you have Mercy, you're charging her her Resurrect, or if you have Ana, you're charging her Nano Boost. So having those two healers on the field is very, very, very effective, guys. I cannot stress how important this team composition is to a tank. And to be honest, it's why I prefer to play single target healers over Lucio, but that's just me, because a lot of people seem to be doing double tank on quick play and competitive. So those are just my anecdotal thoughts on team composition. Really, you could be on any other team, it doesn't really matter, as long as there aren't like 4 tanks or whatever. That's the only way you'd be screwing over your teammates. So let's get on to the review of the character, and I kind of want to cover this a bit better because, well, here, let's just start with the score. I'm going to give D.Va a 3 out of 5. Now, on an anecdotal note, or like completely on an anecdotal basis, I love D.Va. She's my favorite tank in the game. I would play her over any of the other tanks any day of the week. But there are some detracting factors when it comes to, does she appeal to the masses? And the reason I take away 2 of the points is, one, because there is a ton of micromanagement with D.Va. You have 3, or like not 3, you have 2 bars that you have to manage. You have to manage your health, and you have to like keep track of that. You have to keep track of your cooldowns. You have to keep track of your barrier charge on the little right section to the right of the crosshair. There's just a lot of things you have to consider, and on top of that, you have to micromanage what role you're playing at the match at any given time. So that really does add to D.Va's skill cap. Now, do I think that she's accessible to newer players? Absolutely. But they're not going to take full advantage of D.Va's kit and the fact that she can be multiple roles. Like I said before, she could be a damage sponge type of tank. She could just tank for a bit, like moving in front of one of your teammates to absorb damage with her health bar. She can be a backline harasser by flying up to the point where the snipers are and just getting them off the point or killing them effectively. And she can also just fly to vantage points and just spit out low damage just to get the enemy's priority shifted. As a kind of diversion character, or as a guerrilla fighter is how I like to call it. So that's why I give D.Va a 3 out of 5. That's still above average, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that, but 3 out of 5, that's still a positive review. I'm not saying she's useless by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that there is a deeper skill cap to her, and most people tend to ignore that. Whether it's they refuse to, get their spacing. And that's another reason I gave her a 3 out of 5, is because she actually has the worst spacing when it comes to her mech mode, because it's so easy for everyone in the game to break that spacing on her. And given that some characters who dominate spacing could be potential easy targets for D.Va, but she can't take advantage of that because, again, she moves so slow when she's firing, you can't really just abuse those characters. But it kind of keeps her balanced at the same time. So again, no complaints here. But I have to give her a 3 out of 5 simply based on the fact that there is a higher skill cap. There is a ton of micromanagement. You are going to want to sink some time into D.Va if you do think about playing her. But I still love this character. Anyways, that's it for me in the review and the information segment. The rest is going to be post-commentary where I give you mostly anecdotal thoughts or maybe even start talking about the gameplay that's going on right now. So when it comes to D.Va, I think a hidden tip for some, and this is completely anecdotal because it doesn't change anything about the character except the appearance, but I think the Junker and Scavenger skins not only look a lot better aesthetically, but they give you a slight advantage on your headshot hitbox. And what do I mean by that? What I'm talking about is when you're in the regular mech skins, there is a giant piece of glass that represents your entire head hitbox. Enemies see this, and it's very easy for them to scout out where to shoot you in the face. Whereas with the Junker and Scavenger skin, the colors kind of blend in and mesh together to where it makes it a little more deceptive on your head hitbox. That's just an anecdote. I think smarter players are going to think of their way around that. They're not going to care. They're going to know where your face is in the general vicinity. And You guys let me know if you kind of agree with that point or not. But I actually do think that Scavenger and Junker are the best skins for D.Va, both aesthetically and when it comes to just being deceptive about your hitbox. Anyways, guys, I'm actually going to cover it short, simply because I've run out of things to say, and I don't think post-commentary is necessary to just extend the episode. I think the gameplay kind of speaks for itself enough, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching, and bye.
APM 좀 올려볼까?